curtains open up, and here we are, live on the stage. I'm here with my good friend Craig Fisher is in the house. What's up, Craig?
Richard, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Brother, I'm doing good. Halfway through the week, man. Enjoying life, and I got to tell you, this book we're going to talk about today, man, it's something. I don't know if you had this planned or you knew the crystal ball what was going to happen in the future with the economy and jobs, but perfect timing for this book, man, to come out. So I'm excited to deep dive into that today. And also, Paint Your Store, man. I got to tell you right off the bat, how did you come up with that, that title, man? Because it just like, after you start reading the book, you're like, I get it.
Yeah, so interesting. I've been doing this as a speech or a presentation for job seeker groups since like 2007 or 8. And it's one of the ways I still give back to the community here. And I'll go to, these big churches or these big organizations and do these free seminars. And the way this one got kind of put together was we took the presentation from the seminar and that became the outline for the book. But it's something that I've already had in my head and been doing live for a long time. And so I call that speech Paint Your Store. And I talk about it in the presentation. And so that's kind of what it came down to. And it could have been a million things, but I like the way I like the rhythm of it.
No, I do, with the storefront and everything like that. So, okay, so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive in. We know what's going on in the job market right now. I mean,
yeah.
You see it on LinkedIn. I seen yesterday, Craig, I got 5,000 applicants for one job on LinkedIn. Come on, man. 250 every hour. Like, seriously. So that part right there begins, forgetting about putting a resume out there. This is what this book's all about, and just like spraying and praying and hope somebody calls you back. Me and that's not happening these days. So let's just dive in. So I love the part here. The CEO of your career. Give us some take on that, because I kind of like just the title of it, man, because really it is.
Yeah. So if you think about how someone that's, supposed to run a company or an organization is supposed to, have the direction for the company to be successful and profitable. And they might have to get advice from others in their organization or in their circle or network. They might have to look to best practices from other successful competitors or examples. But at the end of the day, they're responsible for the overall direction and success of the company. And so what I like about saying, you're the CEO of you and your career is that nobody else is going to do it. At the end of the day, who's responsible for it? It's not a whimsical thing that someone's just going to, magically pick you if you haven't done anything to show them why. And so I think that promoting yourself and being, the one who's most knowledgeable about what you have to offer is, kind of a great way to look at how you're presenting yourself to the world.
It's so true. And, and we could just dive in. I mean, the personal brand, we both know that very well. And it's like, where does people begin, Craig? Because everybody gives you the advice, build your brand, build your brand, build your brand. But where do you start at to actually get a brand out there where you can, start having people look at you saying, hey, I might hire this person?
So I've got a sort of a list exercise that you can do. It's in the book. You can even find it as one of the pieces of content on my LinkedIn profile. But it's an exercise where you say, all right, list all the things that you've done in the last 10 years, right? All the jobs and responsibilities, all these things that you've done. Now list all the things that you've done that you like to do in the next column. And in the third column, list all the things that you've done that you're likely to get paid to do now, right? Ooh. So I did this 10 years ago, but I'm more likely to get paid for this thing that I did 2 years ago. So that goes in this column here, right? And then the fourth column is, okay, so now what are the things that I like to do that I'm likely to get paid to do? And that's your sweet spot. That's where you start. And so when you're building your brand, first understand who you are, right? And what your lane should be. And then understand who's your audience, right? For content I might put out in the world to showcase how good I am at that. And so then you understand, all right, so I've got potentials. It could be anybody. I could go work for anybody. All right. Well, that's scattershooting. That doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So you maybe aspirationally say, I want to work for this company or these 3 companies, but they're across a pond. You're looking at your career like it's a lake, and you can't jump over it. Can't swim across. It's too big. So you go adjacent, and we can talk about that in a moment. But if you look at what's, adjacent to you, lowest hanging fruit, that's kind of your target audience right up front. So then you're going to start building content around showcasing what you do, what you've done, write case studies, even do some research about companies you'd like to work for and publish that, and make it as if you're really doing a job, like the job you'd want to be hired for. What kind of research would that require? And then publish it as if you're actually doing something that, is a full-time job, because I say that job searching is a full-time job, but so is business development, right? You could just be an entrepreneur. It could just be your next gig. It doesn't really have to be a job search, but building your brand is a long-term prospect. It's not just do it every time you need to do something new. You want to be consistent about it over the long haul.
Do you think a lot of people right now are building their brand like a little bit? I mean, it's no matter what time you do your brand, but I think a lot of people now, like, they lost their job. Now they're kind of trying to build their brand. From what I understand, you got to build your brand while you're still employed.
You got to build it doesn't matter, like, just start, right? So it's not too late. It's not too early. Just start now, because if you don't, a year from now, you'll wish you had.
So all platforms. So we know this. I mean, do you have any recommendations? I know in the book, like, should they be on LinkedIn, in the community? I mean, when they say build their brand, they're like, where do I post the content at?
Yeah. So it depends on your lane, right? If you're, sort of white collar type jobs, or some even advanced blue collar jobs, and some trades, LinkedIn's going to be a good audience for you.
Mm-hmm.
But other trades or blue collar jobs, your audience might be better suited to Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Right? Absolutely. And so I'd say all of the above, because the one good thing about LinkedIn, the most majorly good thing about LinkedIn is it gets really good SEO. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're writing articles and posting them, if you create a professional profile, not just a personal profile, but a business page for that thing you want to do, your job search, you could call it Hire Craig as your next best recruitment marketing expert, right? That's the sort of thing that will come up in search results when people search on Google for someone like you, right? Yeah, and recruiters still do that, believe it or not.
I love it. Do you think they should have their own web page, maybe like a Wix or something like that, like a one page? Or what's your take on that?
You can, if LinkedIn's not your place, right? If you decided that I'm going to be better off with Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or something like that. So video is going to kind of be your thing. But if you want to do some long form writing, those aren't really good platforms for that. So then at that point, yeah, you should have maybe some place where you could host a blog or something.
Gotcha. One chapter I really want to talk about is chapter 4, Take the Leap. You know what I mean? And you talk about jumping into the lake head first or feet first or whatever. I think sometimes, Craig, and this is what you said in your book, is pretty much, you got to have, you got to have courage, you got to have confidence. So,
yeah. So we've come up with an acronym for this, the lake effect.
Ooh.
And right. So
when I think of that, I think of Buffalo.
That's right. Yeah. The lake effect. And we were just there, right, in Niagara. And so we saw the lake effect. But it stands for look, adjacent, know, engage. And so, right, if you're thinking, all right, I want to work, I aspire to work over here, but that's too far, right? That's too much of a leap. It's across a lake. But what's adjacent to me? What are the businesses that have worked, closely to the organization that I've most recently worked at, or the type of skills and roles that I've most recently done? Who would benefit from that the most? And that would be, organizations that are adjacent. They could be, the accounting firm. They could be someone who's sold into your company. They could be one of your vendors. They could be one of your customers. They could be a competitor. all of those organizations would benefit from your knowledge of the thing that you most recently did.
Wow. That's, that's something that you really have to think about. People don't,
No.
and this book, I got to keep saying the book, but it's like, it's very proactive. I mean, what's your take on that? Because I think a lot of job seekers out there, they wait till that last 2 weeks, they're getting tossed or whatever, get laid off, and then they start looking for their job. Can you explain that? I mean, it's a little bit off course, but like, if you're a job seeker and you think you're getting laid off for the next month, I mean, you got to start now.
You do. And, my recommendation is constantly look at yourself as an entrepreneur, right? One of your roles is constantly positioning yourself for your next project. Okay. Whether that's a job, a customer, a gig, whatever it is. If you're selling SaaS software, for instance, that's not a transactional thing like people treat their job search. It's a year-long process, right? You're constantly developing relationships and filling your pipeline. That's the same thing with your career. And if your career is in sales, great. You're already kind of doing that. You're already positioning yourself to be, to win that next customer or that next project. But if you're not in sales and you're not used to, already putting yourself out there, you've got to put that hat on and just understand that when recruiters go to look for, and this happens all the time, right? Recruiters get too many resumes and they do a cursory look and a cursory search of keywords in that database where those resumes went. Maybe it's their inbox. And if they don't find what they're looking for real quick, they go out and do a search. 100% they do. And so that means they're going to be online looking at your profile. And what do they see? Is there anything to see showing them that you are actively good at what you're purporting to do? And that's how you get recruited.
Exactly. And now, real quickly, tell everybody out there, Craig, I say this every night, you got to have a picture.
Yeah.
I don't care what you look like or what you feel like. If you want to get hired, you got to have a picture.
Yes. Yes. You need to have a good profile photo. It needs to be clear. It needs to be, pretty much zoomed up on your face. And you can have a full character photo if you want, but it's got to be high resolution enough that if somebody clicks on it, they got to be able to see what you look like. And I realize that this is not technically, an unbiased situation to say that. There's bias involved when people look at your photo, believe me. So have a good photo and just understand that this is the way it is, not for better or for worse. It just is what it is.
Okay. So can I wear a muscle shirt on my profile?
No.
He said no, just for a day, right?
I mean, every once in a while, I guess.
Yeah, you know what? And it's funny because some of the profiles there, I mean, what's your take on this of having an AI generated? Do you think
I don't mind it if it's a good representation? So, my profile photo on Twitter, it looks like me, but it's a cool version of me, right? I look like some international spy or something, or maybe an LA detective. But whatever it is, it looks like me. And so that's the important thing. If you've got, some animated version of yourself that looks nothing like you, that's not going to work out.
No. Or if you still have your high school picture up there, and you're like in your 50s, that's not going to work either when they see you in person.
That's right.
I love it. Okay. So here's the big one. So out of everybody in your book, you picked this the man that's everywhere, Joel, to have him do a chapter with you. So first off, what made you put Joe in your book? And then just let's elaborate about it. Because, he's everywhere on LinkedIn, every platform. So,
Joel does a really nice job of kind of putting a few things together. So my publisher and I decided we need someone to talk about resumes. We need someone to talk about interviews. We need someone to talk about the job search itself. We need someone to talk about sort of, executive presence or, bits and pieces of things. And so, we asked some of my friends to do some of these things. And Joel was game. this is a thing. He's invited me to his podcast and other events, and we've been let's say co-marketing together for a long time.
Yeah.
And right. And we show up to places together and get to hang out, and it's great. And he's just a good guy. He's enthusiastic. I know that, he's one of the guys who embodies what Paint Your Store is about, right? I mean, he's a really good personal brander. And so that's kind of what his bit's about in my book. And it's really, really good. He did a great job.
He did a great job. I mean, so give me the tips on it. Like, you interviewed him, and I mean, sure, he can talk forever, and he's comical too. So, I mean,
yeah, he's hilarious. And so, my publisher actually interviewed him. So I have a publishing strategist named Corey Kirby, Kory Kirby, and Corey Kirby Books. If you want to work with him, he's fantastic. He's helped me now with 2 books, Paint Your Store and Hiring Humans. And he did the interviews with my guest writers. So he did the longer interviews with me. And so here's how the process goes. He interviews them. He sends me sort of the rough version of the transcript. And I'm like, okay, so this, and this. And then he sends it back in a more refined version. And I say, yes. And then I get to rewrite it in sort of my style, sometimes with the help of ChatGPT, because I've got a custom GPT for both of my books that have my voice in them. And transcripts from all my presentations. It's great when you've been out in the world for a while. ChatGPT already knows what you say and what you sound like. So that's one of the good things of putting yourself out there, for me anyway. ChatGPT already had some sort of my perspective on things. But Joel, he did give us a lot of content, and it was up to Corey to distill it down into, here's something that is consumable. And he did a great job.
That's awesome. So even a twist here. So how did you decide, like, all these chapters, did you and your publicist go back and forth on which should be chapter 1? I mean, Joel's in chapter, what is he in? I think he's in chapter 5. I mean, How long does that take to go back and forth to say, I want to put this book together this way?
Well, okay. So you have to think of it in terms of, if you think of your favorite, streaming Netflix series or HBO series, right? They do these fun things. They start off with the sort of the origin. So it might be something that's back in time, and this happened, and then they jump forward to today, and then they give you some of today, and then maybe they jump out and have sort of a guest scene or episode where something totally different happens before they come back and move on. And so we kind of think of it like that. So is it going to be engaging in the order that it's in? Does it make sense in the order that it's in? Here are the topics that I feel that need to be covered. And, here's the way I generally present them sort of in this order. And for a book like this is like a manual almost, even though it reads kind of like an engaging story, but it's like a manual. And so a book like this has to have very much a sense of order to it and a process. So if you're, somebody that's starting this personal branding of painting your store, there's got to be a step 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so chapters should go like that. But the interludes are, all right, if you are going to go apply to jobs, which is not really the purpose of Paint Your Store, it's sort of the anti-apply to jobs book. But if you are going to do it, here's a chapter on writing your resume, because you're going to have that. Here's a chapter on interviewing. So you're going to have to do that at some point. And so all these bits and pieces are in there.
Well, I love that. The hook right off the bat, CEO, being your own CEO, right off the bat, Craig, you're bringing people in, man. As soon as I seen that part, I mean, you're CEO and it's full time, right there to hook. You're bringing me in, man. So I got to tell you, good job on that, buddy.
Thanks.
Hulu and Netflix will give you a thumbs up on that.
Yes, so, there should be a series, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, maybe we'll have it right here on the podcast.
That's right. We'll do that.
You know it, guy. So you know what? I want to talk about the power of networking, because this is something that's so important. I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of people, they think networking is one thing, which is something else. networking is just not going and shaking a hand and say, hey, can you find me a job? It's not,
That's
it's
right.
more than that. Deep dive into this, brother.
Well, and so my first book, Hiring Humans, is from the employer's perspective, right? And so if you're trying to get people to join your organization, you don't just post jobs all the time. You can, but you don't build any trust in your network that way, right? And so whether you're an organization or a person trying to attract people to you and work to you, then you need to post things that are not just about you and not just about asking for things. So I call this the 5-to-1 give to ask content ratio. And so it's the 80-20 principle. So for every one ask, you need to post 5 things that are either educational, entertaining, funny, right? Things that, aren't about you, but they are, very consumable and interesting to your audience. And so, you'll see me constantly posting little bits and pieces about, I just had this thought today. Here's how I looked at it. What if you asked ChatGPT how to look more like an anime character, right? And so then how do you refine it? And I go down rabbit holes all the time. And so I'll post this stuff, right?
I love that. Well, my stuff too, that quirky stuff. I'm dressing up like Rambo in an AI picture. People love it. Inspirational slogans every day. I mean, Gary Vee, one of the best marketing people in the world, does it every day. So I love how you said that. You don't have to say, I'm looking for a job, or even if you're an employer, you're just putting stuff out there that resonates to your audience.
That's right. And you're building a picture of you that's more well-rounded. So I say everyone should have at least 3 things about you personally that you're comfortable with sharing with the world. I'm not into sort of the current trend of oversharing, where you share your every downfall and every pitfall and every problem. That's not my style. People do it. I guess it's effective. That's fine. But I'm more into entertaining and questioning, norms and things like that, proving things with data. And so I'd rather write, either just strange thoughts that I have that aren't really a complaint. I don't think anyone wants to hear me complain, or, something I think I could prove. Like, is there a way to prove ROI of employee generated content? Well, a few years ago, I asked that question when I was a talent leader at a big tech company. And I figured out, yes, absolutely, there is a way to do that, because clicks and impressions, if you were to pay for them, there's a dollar figure on that. And so if you get that by getting organic content, well, there's ROI to prove right there. And so those are the types of things that I like to put out in the world. And then if you do it from the perspective of, okay, well, I think this company and this company are doing a really interesting job of that, and here's how they're doing it. And, you kind of write a little case study, and it turns out maybe you'd like to go work for those companies, but they take notice because you've posted your content, you've done the research, and you tag them so that they take notice of you.
Tag them.
Then maybe you get some business out of it.
I love that part there, and I think a lot of people at the end of the day, they're scared to put content out. They're worried about the likes. Maybe we can elaborate about this real quick, the likes and everything else. Craig, I'm a firm believer. It's all about engaging somebody. 100,000 likes and nobody's commenting isn't going to get you there. Can you talk about that? Because a lot of people looking for jobs now are hoping that, they go viral so they get hired real quickly. That doesn't happen overnight.
Can I tell you that some of my best content gets very little engagement and very few likes, but the 1 or 2 or 3 people that do comment and I respond to, we have a long conversation. There's a real thread, right? And yes. And so here's the thing about that. Years later, people will tell me, you posted that one thing and I always remembered it. And it's not a flashy thing most of the time. It's not, right? It's just you posted it at the right time. Somebody saw it. And so don't worry about the likes. Don't worry about impressions. Are really actually important, because that means a lot of people are seeing your content.
Exactly. 100%. Okay. So you're a job seeker, and something that, is kind of like we're talking about applying for jobs. And this is a full-time job for everybody. And I've just witnessed a couple people that I dealt with. I'm not going to mention their names, Craig. They applied for 350 jobs in the last 2 months in our industry. 1 reply.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So applying for jobs, how do you get your hope up, or you get to the point where I see recruiters now getting messages back like blank you from the candidate because they're just fed up. It's like nobody's responding back. So what's your tips and strategies on this? If they're going to apply for a job on LinkedIn, don't get all your hopes up. I mean, what do you think? It's a long shot.
First of all, your odds of getting seen are much better if you apply to the company's actual website, not through LinkedIn.
There you go.
Okay?
Look at that.
Yeah, because it goes into a different bucket. And so maybe it still comes into the applicant tracking system, but you can filter by source, right? And so if you say, all right, filter by LinkedIn, well, we've already seen all these people on LinkedIn, recruiters will sometimes say, right? Or we know who's on LinkedIn. We know these are serial appliers, right? Whatever. But those direct applicants usually get seen by somebody. And so I would do a couple of things. If you have to apply to a job, do some research first, right? Ensure that your resume is only highlighting the things that the job is asking for. Don't, right? There's too much content on your resume. I can tell you that much. Your bullet points are too long. You're not saying the things that the employer is looking for right up front. You want to hit them over the head with it. You want it to be so obvious and easy that even if just a snippet of your resume is shown to a recruiter, that they see what they're looking for already. And so that's very important. Secondly, post something about the company that you just applied to on your LinkedIn profile. Do some research, write some interesting facts about that company and post them, and then tag some people who you are hoping will look at your resume, okay, that work for that company. Then reach out to those people and say, hey, I just want you to know I'm really interested in this job. You don't know me yet, but I've done some interesting research and I posted about it here, and give them a link. I'd love for your comment on that. And if you feel like I'd be worthy of a referral, I'd love to talk to you about that because I really love to know more about this role. Now, that's a better ask than what most people do and just say, hey, can I talk to you about this job? There's a whole lot more to it for the recruiter to chew on and to take to their manager if you do it that way.
There is. And tell everybody out there, the quick click, stop it.
Apply
for 30 jobs in 30 seconds. Come on.
Quick apply doesn't work. Most companies are now ignoring quick applies from Indeed and LinkedIn. And it takes an extra step. Even if you have LinkedIn Recruiter, you still have to go to that candidate's profile for the quick apply to be relevant. And also, you can attach your resume, but lots of times candidates aren't. So all they're seeing is your LinkedIn profile. And I know you're not tailoring that to every job you apply to.
No, not at all. You'd be there for days.
That's right.
I mean, there's a lot behind this. Applying for a job is not like it used to be, and you talk about that in a book. It's, in chapter 1 and beyond, but it's like, you just don't apply and just hope, and I think you have to organize this stuff too, Craig. If you're applying for a job, you should know who you reached out to, because if somebody calls you, you're like, oh, how many times you get a candidate like, what job did I apply for?
Yeah. And if you have something like ChatGPT, every time you should build a custom GPT. First of all, you should be paying the $20 a month for
exactly AI agent for sure. Yep.
Build a custom GPT to be your job seeker assistant, and it should have your resume, all versions of your resume that you've ever put together, and then you can put the job description into your custom GPT and say, all right, create a custom resume just for this, and keep track of this employer as I'm about to apply to this job.
There it is.
Right. And then you can ask at any time, give me a list of all the employers and the dates that I applied. And then now there's a version of GPT that can do follow-up. And so, okay, send me a note when it's time to follow up with this employer, plus the messaging that I should follow up with.
So you're telling people out there, AI is going to assist you. It's not going to hurt you.
It's better, right? Look, you're up against it. And to be honest, employers are too, because the applicant tracking systems and the job boards are all using matching technology. And if you're an employer and your jobs aren't up to date for AI optimization and SEO, then you're not getting the best candidates for the job. And job candidates, if you're only giving the employer an AI generated resume and you're not putting your human eyeballs on it and your own words in it, well, you're going to get screened out for just being an AI resume. And that's also not what we want.
Not at all. Okay, so before we wrap things up, one thing that I'm big on, I see, beware of the job scams. I mean, come on, Craig, you talk about that. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Give some tips and stuff like that, because I think every job seeker has been scammed before trying to get, don't pay for anything right off the bat is what I'm going to say.
Right. Look, as soon as an anonymous recruiter on LinkedIn asks you to send your WhatsApp information to apply to a job, then back out. Right. This is not going to work out for you. So these are syndicates. These aren't individuals. These are syndicates putting together these scans, sending you automated messages to get you to reply and give them your information, and then they sell that information in aggregate. They may take your contact information and access your email account and then spam all of your friends as well. And they may even ask you to spend some money on a flight or some training or some BS to participate in this job search situation. So just be very, very careful. And there are phishing techniques where they are duping an actual URL for a real company. And you can't trust anything that you get in email either.
Is there any way that a job seeker can be protected over this? I mean, LinkedIn's getting spammed now too. You got to watch these hyperlinks to click on. I'm a firm believer. If I don't know anybody, I'm not clicking that link.
Don't click the link. Do click the person, right? If there are ways to tell if a person's got a real profile or if it's computer generated or if it's fake. So go to the person on LinkedIn, right click on their profile photo and do a Google image search. And if there's 30 other profiles out there with the same photo from different names, you realize that's probably not going to be the person you want to be giving your information to.
Exactly. Or like a Russian model. I hate to say it that way, but it's like, you know what I mean? You see people out there. They have two likes and that's it, 2 subscribers, but they're telling you they can find you a job. And
that's right. Brand new profile, probably not your best option.
It happens all the time. I mean, I don't know about you, Craig, but I see it. Oh, I see it with me. They're trying to spam me every day.
Every day. That's right.
Oh, so we're going to wrap it up here. Any final thoughts? Last thing I want to talk about, seal the deal, because that's something that's at the end, man, sealing the deal. So give us some insights about this, and then we're just going to wrap it all up.
So, Richard, I'm sort of the non-traditional career guy because I do these jobs where I go in-house W-2 jobs, and then I go back to my consulting business for a while. The point is that I'm never really out of work. I'm always got a situation where there's income, right? So even if I do have periods of a year or more where I'm not doing W-2 work for some organization, it's fine because I've got projects and contracts and things like that. Yeah. So sealing the deal is really all about getting an opportunity and then capitalizing on the opportunity. So I interview for jobs all the time that I'm probably overkill for, but I turn those opportunities into a situation where I say, you know what, you're right. In fact, let me tell you what I would think about this job. And I explain what I think probably the reporting structure is and the pay scale and the responsibilities. They're like, yeah. I'm like, you're going to have trouble finding this person at that price. So I can help you identify this person. And this isn't a recruiting situation, but this is kind of what I do. And then I'll help you on board that person and get your whole operation set up for success. And let's call it a 45-day contract. And then if you want to keep me around to implement some stuff, we can talk about that. And I turn job interviews into consulting projects all the time. So sealing the deal isn't just about saying, I'm interested in this job, which you have to do. And that's the one piece of advice. If you interview for a job, just make sure to say these exact words, and you can expand on it if you want, but I'm really interested in this job. What are the next steps? And how could I best be successful for you? And right, these are the buying signals that you could be exactly like 30 other candidates, but if you're the only one that says physically, I want this job, well, you're very much more likely to get it.
Man, I like that. And that's just confidence and swag. Going in at the end and just being like, hey, I want this job. I want it. Don't be scared to say stuff. Speak out, man. I love it, Craig. Hey, where can they find your book at, brother? Here we go. It's in Amazon and where else, man?
Yeah. So the website is hiring-humans.com. And you can also find it at my corporate site, talentnetlive.com. And pretty much any bookstore that has an online presence, just search for Craig Fisher Paint Your Store, and it's all over the place. It's already a bestseller. And so I'm very excited.
Yeah, man.
Thanks to my audience for supporting it. And it really is a good read. And I hope people get some value out of it.
Greg, it's an incredible read. Just what you did today in the last 35 minutes is so many good tips, before they even read the book. But yeah, I think the biggest thing we're taking away is have confidence, be different, and get out there and just do it.
That's right. Absolutely.
All right, brother.
Paint your store. That's right.
That's it, brother. Hey, this chapter and this book is closed. All right, Craig. Hey, thank you so much, brother. We'll see you sometime soon, buddy.
Thanks, Richard.
Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.